December arrived at Hogwarts with icy corridors and enchanted snow in the Great Hall. With it came a flurry of parchment, panic, and revision charts colour-coded with terrifying precision. The trio had claimed a regular table in the library, halfway between the charms section and the spell-damaged shelf, which Hermione avoided eye contact with. They called it the battleground. It was day 4 of mid-term preparation. Ron's face was pressed against a book. Do we have to know all 12 uses of dragon's blood? Yes, Hermione said, not looking up. You'll lose a full mark for everyone you miss. Ron groaned. I thought dragons were supposed to be cool. They are, Harry muttered, flipping through his notes. Just not when they're distilled into footnotes. Hermione adjusted her stack of books. It was beginning to resemble a small fortress. Honestly, if you both took better notes, you wouldn't be so behind. Ron shot Harry a look. She's got colour-coded tabs. Colour-coded. I'm aware, Harry said. Hermione sniffed. It helps with retention. Ron grinned. You would retain colours. Harry smiled but said nothing. He'd come to recognise this rhythm. Ron pushing, Hermione resisting, both of them slowly drawing him into the middle. He didn't mind. The arguing had begun to feel familiar, safe even. Just then, Hermione snapped her quill in half. They both looked at her. I wasn't pushing that hard, she said quickly, cheeks going pink. It's just this essay. Professor McGonagall asked for applied transfiguration theory and... You need a break, Harry said. I don't... You're quoting lineages of Wandwood, Ron interrupted, from memory. I like to be thorough. You're thoroughly twitching, said Harry. Hermione opened her mouth, closed it, then sighed. I suppose we could take 10 minutes. They looked at each other in victory. See, Ron said, we're good for it. I'm not twitching, Hermione added under her breath. By the second week of December, most of the school had cleared out for the holidays. The corridors felt wider, the castle quieter. There was space to breathe, and snow to kick into perfect powdery mists on the lawn. Harry stayed. So did Ron, and so did Hermione. She claimed she wanted uninterrupted time to revise, but they all knew that wasn't the only reason. Christmas morning arrived with frost on the windows and laughter echoing from the lower floors. Harry woke and ran down the staircase to find a pile of presents in the common room. Presents for him. One was wrapped in deep red paper, Ron's clearly, and charmed to explode in a shower of glitter the moment he touched it. Hermione approached with a small, neatly wrapped bundle, one edge tied with dark green string. She looked slightly awkward, like she wasn't sure how to hand it over. It's not much, she said, brushing her hair behind her ear, but, well, Merry Christmas. Harry took it with both hands and unwrapped it carefully. 2 things lay nestled in the folds. A small notebook with a soft green leather cover and a pair of deep brown gloves, stitched with silver thread and faint runes he didn't recognise. He lifted the notebook first. It felt warm, like it had just been held. There's a charm on it, Hermione said quickly. Silent message transfer. If you write something and close it, it'll appear in mine, just for a few seconds, and vice versa. Useful if we have questions we forgot to ask, about class or whatever's on your mind. Harry looked up at her, surprised. He nodded in astonishment. Wow, Hermione, this is brilliant. Next, she picked up another present and awkwardly walked towards him. I thought these might help, she said, sounding slightly unsure of herself. You were brilliant in your first Quidditch match, obviously, catching the snitch like that. But I figured you'd rather not rely on your teeth every time." Harry raised an eyebrow, amused, and unwrapped the package. Inside were a pair of sleek Quidditch gloves. They were soft but strong, a supple dark leather with faint silvery threading around the fingers. The inside was lined with something smooth and cool, like silk no, not silk, something stranger, older. As he pulled them on, a faint tingle ran through his fingers, like the sensation just before magic. He flexed his hands. "They're enchanted for grip," Hermione said, "so you don't lose hold during dives or turns. Hagrid helped me get them. They're dragonhide, or, well, mostly," she added. "Hagrid helped me find them. Said they're especially good in bad weather. I added a warming charm too, so your hands won't freeze mid-air. Said they were made from, well, something rare. Didn't say what exactly." Harry turned his palms, watching the way the runes glinted in the firelight. The tingling hadn't faded. "They feel weird, almost alive," Harry noted. "But they feel good." Hermione looked up, curious. "Do they?" He nodded slowly, flexing his fingers. "Like they know I'm here." She smiled, brushing it off. "Well, if they help you avoid swallowing any more flying objects, I'll count it as a success." He nodded again, but something about the gloves stayed with him. They weren't uncomfortable, far from it, but wearing them felt like pressing his hands against a storm, like something was humming just beneath the surface. He didn't say that part out loud. Instead, he opened the notebook to a blank page, pulled a quill from the table and wrote simply, "Thanks." Just a few seconds later, the words began to shimmer faintly across the page, before slowly fading, and in their place a new line appeared in Hermione's tidy handwriting. "You're welcome." Harry smiled. Then he closed the notebook again, gently, like it was something fragile. Ron tossed him a package. "Mum sent you a jumper. Welcome to the Weasley Club." Harry pulled it on. It was forest green with a big gold H on the front. "I'll send her a letter as soon as I can," he gratefully said. Ron grinned. "Please do, or else I'll be getting howlers from her interrogating me if I gave it to you or not." After the laughter faded and the common room emptied of wrapping paper and warm cocoa, Harry found one last package on the floor beside his bed. It hadn't been there before. No name, no card. Just a heavy silver cloth wrapped around a note. He unfolded it carefully. The fabric was smoother than silk, but colder. It shimmered in the firelight, not like cloth, but like water frozen in mid-air. He ran a hand over it. His fingers vanished. Harry yanked them back. He turned to the note. "Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. A very Merry Christmas to you." No signature. Harry read the note again and again. He didn't speak. All of his thoughts went to his father. He pulled the cloak around his shoulders proudly, and the world blinked. He was gone. Harry didn't mean to find it again. The first night he stumbled upon it had felt like an accident. The second felt like fate. Now it was Christmas night, and the castle was deep in slumber, a quiet so perfect it almost hummed. He slipped the invisibility cloak around his shoulders, crept past the sleeping portraits, and let his feet guide him. And there it was, the room with the long high windows and the dust that never seemed to settle. And the mirror, tall, ornate, golden. Harry stepped in front of it and held his breath. There they were, his parents, James Potter, hair every bit as messy as Harry's, stood with a proud grin and a hand resting on his son's shoulder. Lily's eyes, his eyes, shone with warmth. They didn't speak, but they saw him, and somehow that was enough. He sat cross-legged in front of the mirror, wrapped in the cloak but not hidden, and stared for what felt like hours. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't even know what your voices sounded like." They smiled. "And then you must have discovered the delights of the Mirror of Erist." Harry jumped. He turned. Professor Dumbledore stood in the shadows, robes like smoke and eyes like candlelight. "I didn't hear you," Harry said. "Strange how that works," Dumbledore said gently, stepping forward. "The mirror is a powerful thing. It tends to silence the world around it." Harry turned back to it. "It shows me my family." "I see my long-lost friend," Dumbledore said, coming to stand beside him, "but only when I look into my heart." Harry frowned. "Is this real?" Dumbledore's smile was small, not unkind. "It's the most real kind of unreal. The mirror shows us nothing more or less than the deepest, most desperate desire of our hearts." Harry looked at his parents again. "So it's just a dream?" "A dream, yes, but dreams can be useful things. They remind us what we long for, what we fear to lose." Harry was quiet for a moment. "Professor?" "Why did someone leave the mirror here, in an empty room?" Dumbledore looked at him. "Because sometimes, Harry, we need to face our desires in silence, and sometimes we need to leave them behind." He paused. "This mirror will be moved soon. I would not have you waste away before it." Harry nodded, slowly. "Can I come back?" "You may always return to your memories," Dumbledore said. "But the mirror, no. It is not a place to live." Then, after a moment softer, "It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live." Harry didn't respond. Not right away, but later, back in his bed, cloak folded in his arms and the fire low, he stared up at the ceiling and whispered, "Thanks, Dad." The snow clung to the castle long after the new term began. Thick drifts piled on windowsills, muffling the wind and turning the hallways icy with draughts. Harry sat by the fire in the Gryffindor common room, flipping through Quidditch through the ages, though he wasn't really reading. He kept glancing at the stairs. Ron tumbled down first, scarf flapping like a banner. "Tell me we don't have herbology first. I can't feel my fingers." "History of magic," Harry said. "Which might be worse," Ron groaned. "The only subject where I fall asleep twice in the same class." Hermione appeared a moment later, already in uniform, her satchel bursting at the seams. Ron glanced at her bag. "Did you bring the library with you?" "I'm revising," she said simply. "You should try it," Ron snorted. "I'll revise when ghosts stop teaching classes." Harry watched them argue, smiling faintly. It wasn't just the holidays that had changed things. It was everything. The troll, the cloak, the mirror. They weren't just friends now. They were each other's people. A week later, Hagrid summoned them to his hut with what could only be described as suspicious excitement. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and something else, heat. The kind that seemed to crawl up your spine and whisper, "Turn back." Hagrid beamed. "Come in, come in." Hermione wrinkled her nose. "Hagrid, what is that smell?" "None of your business yet," he said, grinning. "Surprise." Ron peered into the hearth and jumped back. "Is that a dragon egg?" Hagrid announced proudly. "Norwegian Ridgeback. Got it off a fella down in the pub." Hermione paled. "Hagrid, that's illegal." "Not if you don't tell anyone," Hagrid said, winking. Harry crouched beside the hearth, eyes wide. The egg was jet black, marbled with silver streaks. It pulsed faintly with heat. "Blimey," Ron whispered. "It's actually moving." Hermione crossed her arms. "Hagrid, this is incredibly dangerous. What are you going to do when it hatches?" "Raise it, o' course," Hagrid said cheerfully. "Built a little pen outside and everything." "You can't keep it," she insisted. "You'll get expelled, or arrested, or eaten." "Bah, I'll be fine. I mean, it's not like I've got something important to guard like Fluffy." Silence. Harry blinked. "Like who?" Hagrid froze ladle halfway to his stew pot. "Fluffy?" Hermione said slowly. "Didn't say that." Hagrid defensively said. "You absolutely did," Ron added. "Right." Hagrid coughed into his beard. "Slip of the tongue. You three better be off now." "But go on, go on. Dragon needs quiet." He practically shoved them out the door. They didn't say anything until they were halfway back up to the castle, boots crunching in the snow. "Fluffy," Hermione muttered. "He said Fluffy's guarding something." Harry nodded. "And he said Dumbledore's got it protected." "Exactly," she said. "He let it slip. There's something hidden at Hogwarts." Ron glanced between them. "So what?" "You think Dumbledore's stashed treasure somewhere?" "No," Hermione said. "Something valuable, something people would try to steal." Harry's brow furrowed. "I bet Snape's behind something. If he tried to kill me in Quidditch, then I bet he'll try to steal whatever Dumbledore's hiding." "And he's limping," Hermione added. "What if he got hurt, trying to get past whatever Fluffy is?" Ron stopped walking. "Hold on. You want to go looking for whatever that thing is?" "We don't have to get close. I just want to know what it is. No creature should be locked in a school hallway like that." Harry smiled faintly. "And I have the cloak. I'm sure it'll be fine." The castle slept. 3 shadows moved silently through the halls, one of them not visible at all. Harry led the way under the invisibility cloak. Hermione pressed close beside him, Ron stumbling slightly at the rear. "I can't see my feet," Ron whispered. "What if I step on something cursed?" "Try not to breathe so loudly," Hermione hissed. "I'm panicking, not snorkeling." Harry held up a hand. They stopped. Ahead was the door, the one they were warned never to open. Harry reached out, tested the handle, locked. Ron reached out with his wand. "Alohomora," he casted. They slipped inside. The room was dark, but warm and breathing. The dog, no, Fluffy, was massive, curled up, all 3 heads snoring slightly out of sync. It lay sprawled across the stone floor, on top of a trap door. Hermione's hand flew to her mouth. "It's guarding something," she whispered. "It's guarding a trap door." "Why would Hogwarts hide something under that?" Ron whispered. Harry stared at the creature. The weight of it, the scale of it. "Because whatever's down there, someone thinks it's worth protecting." Hermione nodded slowly. "And someone else might think it's worth stealing." Thigh slowly back away and left through the door. Harry slipped the cloak off to breathe the non-smug air. They were just passing the statue of Gregory the Smarmy when Harry stopped short. Hermione bumped into him. "What is it?" Harry held up a hand, whispering, "Someone's there." A shadow slipped from behind a suit of armour. "Well, well," said a voice soaked in smugness. "Look who's out after hours." Draco Malfoy stepped into the moonlight. "Malfoy," Harry muttered. "What do you want?" "Sneaking around with your little gang, I see. What were you doing, writing bedtime stories in the library? Or was it hatching dragon eggs with that fat oaf?" Ron stepped forward. "Say that again, and I'll write to your father. Tell him his little boy's pretending to be scary again." But Malfoy's grin widened. "You're not very good at sneaking, Potter, or choosing friends. Even Granger's looking nervous." Hermione straightened her spine. "We were studying late. Lost track of time. Oh, I'm sure McGonagall will love that." Malfoy turned on his heel, calling into the corridor, "Professor, over here." And just like that, footsteps approached fast. A lantern bobbed into view. Professor McGonagall emerged, her expression unreadable but tight with disappointment. "Potter, Weasley, Granger," she said. Then her eyes flicked to Malfoy. "And Mr. Malfoy, what exactly is going on?" "They were out of bed," Malfoy said quickly, wandering around. McGonagall's lips thinned. "And what were you doing?" Malfoy blinked. "Following them. I thought they were up to something." "So you decided to break the same rule they were breaking?" she said coolly. "How very noble." Malfoy's mouth opened, then closed again. McGonagall turned to the trio. "This is very disappointing. 50 points from each of you, and I believe detention is in order." Ron groaned softly. Hermione paled. Harry coldly stared at Malfoy. "Report to Mr. Filch tomorrow night," McGonagall finished. "He'll have instructions. And next time you're tempted to go exploring, don't." The moon hung low and swollen as the 4 students gathered by the edge of the forbidden forest. Even from the path, the trees looked ancient and wrong, twisting inward like they were whispering secrets too old for human ears. Hagrid stood waiting with a lantern, Fang at his feet. His face was stern, his crossbow slung over his shoulder. "Right," he said, "listen up. Summit's been hurting unicorns." Hermione gasped. "They've found 2 dead this month," Hagrid continued. "That's not natural. Unicorns are pure creatures, innocent. Takes something evil to hurt 'em." Malfoy wrinkled his nose. "You're joking. We're going in there." "Yes, we are," Hagrid growled. "You're here for detention, not a picnic." "I thought we'd be polishing trophies," Malfoy muttered. "Not playing monster bait." Hermione adjusted her scarf. "It's not play, Malfoy. This is serious." "I know it's serious. That's the problem." Hagrid cut across the bickering. "We're splitting into 2 groups. Malfoy, you're with Harry. Hermione with me. Ron, take Fang. Stay on the paths. If ye see silver blood, call out. Don't go chasing anything alone." Ron glanced at Fang, who was trembling already. Brilliant. They set off into the dark. Harry and Malfoy walked side by side, the lantern light swinging wildly with every uneven step. Malfoy complained almost instantly. "My hand are freezing. Why is it always freezing in these woods?" Harry couldn't relate, for his dragon gloves protected him from the night chill. "Honestly, this is barbaric. My father will hear about this." "Will your father tell the unicorns to stop dying?" Harry muttered. Malfoy didn't respond. The deeper they walked, the quieter everything became. No birdsong, no rustling, just the sound of their boots and Malfoy's growing discomfort. Then Harry stopped. "Do you hear that?" Malfoy tensed. "I hear nothing, which is worse." They stepped into a clearing, and the lantern flickered. Silver blood streaked the leaves like spilled light, and in the middle of it, a unicorn, still and pale, lay crumpled like fallen silk. Over it crouched a figure cloaked in black, its face hidden beneath a hood. Harry gasped, and his scar split open in pain, blinding, searing. The figure lifted its head, and Malfoy screamed. He dropped his lantern and ran. crashing through the underbrush, shouting for Hagrid, for anyone. Harry couldn't move. He clutched his forehead, eyes watering. The figure began to rise, and then a blur of hooves and light thundered into the clearing. A centaur, tall, pale, stern-eyed, Firenze. The dark figure recoiled and slipped into the shadows, vanishing like smoke. Firenze lowered his front legs and looked at Harry. "You are safe now," he said. Harry panted, still gripping his scar. What was that?" Firenze helped him to his feet. "Do you know what unicorn blood does, Harry Potter?" Harry shook his head. "It keeps one alive, even when death should have come, but at a terrible price." Harry stared at the silver blood. "Who would do that?" Firenze's eyes flicked toward the stars. "You saw him, and he saw you." A beat. Then Firenze added, quieter, more solemn, "Mars, by the day, moves more into the light." Harry blinked. "What does that mean?" Firenze didn't answer immediately. He looked toward the trees, as if listening to something only centaurs could hear. "It means war is near," he said at last. "And your journey, Harry Potter, has only just begun." The fire had burned low by the time they returned to the Gryffindor common room. Most of the house was asleep. Even the portraits had nodded off. Ron was pacing. He ran. Malfoy ran. Screamed like a banshee and legged it. "Left you with that thing?" "He's a coward," Hermione said quietly, folding her arms, "but maybe he's not wrong to be afraid." Harry sat on the floor by the hearth, staring into the dying embers. The red light flickered against his glasses, but he wasn't really seeing it. Ron stopped pacing. "Was it really him?" Harry nodded slowly. "Firenze didn't say his name, but I knew it was Voldemort." Ron flinched. Hermione sat across from him, her voice careful. "Drinking unicorn blood, that's a curse. It keeps you alive, but only half alive. Firenze said it's a terrible price." Ron frowned. "What's worse than dying?" Harry looked up at them, his voice low. "Living without a soul." Ron tilted his head. "But unicorns live all over the world. Why is he squatting in the Forbidden Forest of all places?" Hermione's eyes widened. Maybe he's not just after unicorns. What if Voldemort is trying to steal whatever Fluffy is guarding? "You're right," Harry said. "And maybe Snape's helping him. That's why he's always around the 3rd floor. He's close to the castle." The three of them exchanged uneasy looks. Hermione straightened. "I'll go to Hagrid's tomorrow. I'll try to ask about the trap door again." Harry nodded. "And I've got a match." Snow clung to the towers, and the winter air was sharp as glass. The stadium roared with muffled cheers as Harry mounted his broom, pulling on the gloves Hermione had gifted him. The moment they touched his skin, a tingle shot through his fingers, not unpleasant, like a pulse of energy. He flexed his grip on the broom's handle, solid, certain. The gloves were made of thestral hide, light but strong, lined with unicorn hair. Hermione had said they were meant for Quidditch, for grip and control, but she hadn't known how enchanted they truly were. Hagrid had helped get them, apparently. Harry made a mental note to thank them both again. As the game began, the difference was immediate. He sliced through the air with more control than ever before. Turns that usually rattled him felt smooth. His grip never slipped, even as snow whipped across his goggles. The snitch darted just over Ravenclaw's keeper. Harry was on it. He dove, faster. The wind tore at his robes. The gloves clung to the broomstick like they were part of it. He reached out, just as the snitch looped upward. He pulled up, matched its arc, reached again, snap. His fingers closed around it, firm and certain. Cheers exploded across the pitch as Harry slowed, holding the golden snitch aloft in his gloved hand. Woods tackled him as soon as he landed. Fred and George lifted him up as the Gryffindors surged the field. But celebration was not on Harry's mind. He managed to escape the crowd, change, and head to the library with Ron. The library was quiet, save for the soft rustle of pages and the occasional creak of the castle settling under winter's weight. Harry and Ron sat hunched over a growing fortress of books. Titles like Magical Theories, Alchemy Through the Ages, and Secrets of the Darkest Arts lay cracked open in front of them, none offering what they needed. Harry sighed and rubbed his eyes. Nothing. We've checked half the shelf already. Ron flipped through another volume and grunted. This one doesn't even have an index. Just a lot of diagrams of exploding cauldrons. Just then, Harry's enchanted notebook shimmered faintly. He flipped it open. Hagrid just mentioned Nicholas Flamel. Look for him. Hermione. Nicholas Flamel? Ron repeated, already scanning the spines for the name. That's something, right? Harry nodded, already grabbing books two at a time. Let's find him. They dove in, pulling down every reference book they could find. Pages flew, ink smudged fingers and frustration grew. Still, no Flamel. Harry dropped into a chair, defeated. Nothing, not even in famous wizards of the 20th century. Ron tossed another book aside with a thud. He's supposed to be famous. Where is he? Harry leaned back and rubbed his stomach. I could go for a chocolate frog right now. Ron blinked, then slowly pulled a battered card from his robe pocket. Wait a second. He held it up. Albus Dumbledore winked back at them. Ron read aloud, is particularly famous for his defeat of the dark wizard Grindelwald in 1945, for his discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood, and for his work on alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Harry sat up straight. There! They scrambled to one of the open books Hermione had left behind, a thick, leather-bound text on medieval alchemists. Harry flipped through and pointed. Nicholas Flamel, born 1327, the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. Ron's mouth fell open. The what now? Harry read faster. The Philosopher's Stone can turn any metal into pure gold, but more importantly, it produces the elixir of life. It grants immortality. They stared at the page. That's what he's after, Harry said. That's what Fluffy's guarding. Ron swallowed. And what Voldemort's trying to get. Without another word, Harry scribbled back into the notebook. It's the Philosopher's Stone. Meet us in the common room. Now. The Gryffindor common room was nearly empty when they arrived, the fire reduced to a soft orange glow in the hearth. Shadows danced along the stone walls, flickering over sleeping portraits and forgotten textbooks. Hermione was already there, curled in an armchair near the fire, eyes sharp with anticipation. She looked up as Harry and Ron entered. Well? She asked. Harry dropped into the seat across from her, setting the thick book on the low table between them. He then showed her everything on the Philosopher's Stone. Hermione leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. The unicorn blood keeps him alive, barely. But the stone! That would restore him, body and magic. She didn't finish the thought. She didn't need to. Ron slumped into a seat beside them and exhaled hard. Then he's back, properly back. Harry stared into the fire again, the orange light flickering in his eyes. We can't let that happen." There was a pause. The fire popped softly. "Well," Hermione began carefully, "we could tell McGonagall, or Dumbledore, if he's back yet." Harry didn't answer right away. He looked at her, then at Ron, then down at the glowing coals. "I thought about it," he said finally, "but what if they don't believe us? What if they tell us to stay out of it? What if they wait, and it's too late?" Ron gave a half-hearted shrug. "You're not wrong. I mean, Snape's still here. What if he moves tonight?" Harry's voice was low, steady. "Dumbledore's not even in the castle. They made sure of that. And McGonagall. She wouldn't let us anywhere near it. She'd lock us in the tower and throw away the key." Hermione hesitated, then nodded slowly. She'd mean well, but it wouldn't be enough. There was silence again, thicker this time, the weight of the truth pressing in. "No one else knows what we know," Harry said. "We have to be the ones to stop him." Hermione blinked. "You mean go down there, into the trap door?" "We're not trying to fight him," Harry said. "But if we can figure out what's guarding the stone, we might be able to stop him, or slow him down, or find proof, something." Ron groaned and flopped backward into the armchair. "I knew being friends with you two would get me killed." "You're not dying tonight," Hermione said, pulling her jumper straight. "Not if we make a proper plan." Harry gave a small nod. The weight of everything, the forest, the unicorn, the stone, settled on his shoulders, but it wasn't fear. Not exactly. It was something quieter, heavier, responsibility. "We'll go," he said, "together. We stop him before he gets what he came for." And for a moment, in the crackling silence of the common room, it felt as though the castle itself was listening. That night they crept down the stairs in the dark, robes swishing, the invisibility cloak rustling like wind over water. The castle was quiet. Too quiet. Even the portraits seemed to be holding their breath. Harry led, wand in hand. Ron followed close behind, clutching a bag of supplies. Hermione's voice was a whisper in Harry's ear. "Fluffy will fall asleep quickly to music playing," Hagrid told me, "but we have to move fast." As they turned the final corridor toward the third-floor corridor, a small figure stood in the moonlight, arms outstretched like a barricade. Neville Longbottom. He looked terrified, but his chin was set. "You're not going," he said. They froze. "Neville," Hermione started. "You're going to get expelled," he said. "Or worse, and I won't let you." Ron groaned. "Neville, not now." "You don't understand," Neville said, his voice trembling. "People already think I'm useless. If you lot get caught, and I didn't even try to stop you, what does that make me?" Harry stepped forward, slowly. "Neville," he said quietly, "you're brave. You're one of the bravest people I know, but we're not doing this for glory. We're doing it because someone dangerous is trying to come back. Someone who already hurt a lot of people." Neville's eyes darted between them. "Then why not tell a teacher?" "Because they don't believe us," Hermione said gently. "But you can. Trust us." Neville looked down. "I do." He stepped aside. Harry reached into his pocket. "Here, take this." He handed Neville the chocolate frog card with Dumbledore's face on it. "If something happens," Harry said, "tell him. He'll know what to do. This will help you as well, I hope." Reaching into his pocket came the remembrall. The white smoke turned blue as Neville touched it, meaning a promise has been made. Neville nodded, holding the orb as if it were something sacred. The trio trudged on and reached the forbidden door. Hermione pulled out a small, enchanted flute. Ron muttered, "Please let it not be awake." They eased the door open. Fluffy was asleep. The trio was perplexed, but realised the calming harp playing in the corner. Without hesitation, Harry moved to the trapdoor. "Help me with this." Together, they dragged it open. A damp, root-filled shaft yawned beneath them. "Looks like we jump," Harry said. "Terrific," Ron muttered. Hermione hesitated. "If we survive this, I'm filing a formal complaint." They looked at each other. 3 kids in overgrown robes and oversized shoes, and nodded. Harry jumped first. Darkness swallowed him. The fall felt endless. Harry hit the ground with a muffled thud, softer than he expected, like landing in thick cushions of rope. But the rope moved. "Ron!" he called out. "Oof, yeah, I'm here," Ron groaned, his voice muffled. "What is this stuff?" "Harry?" Hermione's voice echoed above them just before she landed beside him with a thump. Then the vines began to tighten. "What the— Hey, hey!" Ron flailed, but the more he struggled, the tighter the tendrils coiled around his legs, chest, arms. "It's got me!" Harry felt the same cold pressure winding up his limbs. "It's Devil's Snare!" Hermione gasped, already being pulled under. "Don't fight it! Just stay still!" Ron wriggled harder. "Stay still! It's strangling me!" "Ron, listen!" Hermione shouted. "It tightens when you panic." Harry tried to stop squirming. It wasn't easy. Every instinct screamed get free, but the vines eased slightly as he stilled his breathing. "Do what she says," Harry said through gritted teeth. "Let it think you're not struggling." Ron froze. "Fine. But if I die, I'm blaming both of you." The tendrils began to loosen. "Now," Hermione said quickly. "Devil's Snare hates light. Lumos Solem." A brilliant burst of white light shot from her wand, bathing the tangled mass in a warm, radiant glow. With a hiss, the plant recoiled. The vines slithered back like snakes into the walls, retreating from the spell. The trio collapsed onto the cold stone floor, gasping. "Well," Ron coughed, "that was horrible." Hermione brushed dirt off her robes. "You're welcome." Harry stood slowly. "Wow, we really did have a spell for that." Ron muttered, "How many more traps do you think there are?" "Enough," Hermione said, "but we're ready." They shared a look, 1 part fear, 1 part resolve, and moved forward into the next chamber, deeper into the castle's heart, and closer to the secret someone would kill to keep. The door slammed shut behind them with a heavy clang. This room was colder. Stone walls lined with iron sconces, and up above, hundreds of glittering shapes flitting through the air like birds. Only they weren't birds. "Keys," Hermione whispered. "Hundreds of them." At the far end of the room stood a single wooden door with a large keyhole. Ron stepped forward, squinting. "So we just find the right one?" Harry looked up. The keys were all different. Brass, silver, iron, flapping their tiny wings in chaotic loops. One buzzed past his ear, metallic feathers glinting in the torchlight. "No," he said, "we don't just find it, we catch it." Ron groaned. "Brilliant." Harry was already scanning the walls. "There, look." Against one side stood an old rickety broomstick, dusty, worn, but when Harry touched it, the handle thrummed under his fingers as if recognizing him. "This one's mine," Harry said. Ron clapped his shoulder. "Of course it is." Harry kicked off the ground, rising into the air. The cold bit at his face as he climbed above the cloud of circling keys. They scattered around him, dodging his path. He narrowed his eyes. "There!" Hermione called from below. Big silver one, wings a bit bent on the right." Harry spotted it, darting through the others like a fish in a swarm. It was fast, erratic, almost as if it knew it was important. He leaned forward, broomstick humming beneath him. The wind whipped his robes as he twisted and dodged. Keys clattered past him, some trying to jab or blind him with their metallic wings. He ducked, swerved. The silver key darted left. Harry followed, gripping the handle tighter. Below, Ron shouted, "You've got it on the run." Hermione added, "Angle in from the right, herd it toward the wall." Harry banked hard, cutting off the key's path. It swerved right into the wall. Its wing bent even more, just for a second. That was enough. Harry lunged. His fingers closed around cold, flapping metal. He dropped to the ground, landing with a skid. "Got it," he panted, holding it up. Hermione rushed to the door, examining the lock. "Same shape, same length, that's the one." Ron reached for the handle. "Before the rest of them decide we're the problem." The key fluttered violently in Harry's hand, trying to escape. He jammed it into the lock. It clicked. The door creaked open. Ron sighed with relief. "Please tell me the next room doesn't fly or strangle us." Hermione glanced at Harry. "Ready?" Harry nodded. They stepped through the door. The door shut behind them with a finality that echoed. This room was vast, cavernous, echoing with silence. Moonlight streamed through high, unseen slits in the walls, casting long shadows on the black and white floor that stretched before them. "Chess," Hermione whispered, but not any chess. The pieces were life-sized. Each one towered over them, knights on horses snorting steam, rooks shaped like squat stone towers, bishops with hooded faces and hands on sword hilts. Ron gave a low whistle. "Now this is more like it." Harry stepped closer. "We have to play as pieces." Hermione looked pale. "I think so. There are gaps. We'll have to take the places of some." Ron's face was alight with something rare, confidence. "I've got this," he said. Hermione blinked. "You what?" "I play with my brothers all the time. Fred and George love this sort of thing, only the board never tries to kill you." "That's comforting," Harry muttered. Ron began pacing, studying the pieces. "Harry, you take that bishop square. No, 2 left. There. Hermione, go on the other rook. I'll be the knight." "You're sure?" Hermione asked. Ron nodded. "I've got to see the board. Trust me." She hesitated, then stepped into place. The moment all three had settled into position, the game began. The white side moved first, a pawn clattering forward with a grind of stone on stone. Ron called out commands, fast and firm. "Harry, forward one. Hermione, stay put." They moved, their boots echoing sharply on the tiles. The black pieces responded instantly. It wasn't just chess, it was war. When the first capture happened, a white bishop taking a black pawn, the air cracked with sound. The piece was struck down, shattering like marble dropped from a tower. Harry flinched. "They don't hold back," Ron said grimly. "Keep sharp." They moved. They dodged. Hermione cast glances between the board and Ron, eyes wide but focused. And then Ron froze. "This is it." "What is?" Harry asked. "I have to sacrifice myself," Ron said. "It's the only way." Hermione's voice cracked. "There has to be another way." "There isn't." Ron looked at them both. "Once I do, you can checkmate the king. The game ends. You win. But I'll be fine," Ron said. "Probably just knocked out." Harry looked at him, really looked. "You don't have to." "I do," Ron said. You're the one who has to stop him, and she's the one who knows how." Hermione opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes were wet. Ron smiled faintly. "Besides, better me than you." Then he spurred his knight forward. The White Queen responded instantly, swinging a massive stone arm straight through Ron's chest. There was a horrible crunch. Ron was flung backward, landing hard, motionless. Hermione screamed. Harry caught her by the arm. "He's breathing." They turned. The board was waiting. Harry stepped forward, moved the Black Queen. Checkmate. The White King bowed stiffly, and all the pieces fell still. The way ahead opened. They ran to Ron, but Hermione's hand was already on his wrist. "Pulse," she whispered. "Unconscious but alive." Harry let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "He did it." Hermione nodded, brushing hair from her face. "He saved us." They stood for a moment over their fallen friend and turned to the next door. Beyond the shattered silence of the chessboard, the next chamber felt smaller, tighter, less like a trial and more like a trap. The air was bitterly cold. Black flames burned in a line across the exit. Purple flames rose behind them, blocking the way back. A stone table stood between the fires. 7 bottles were lined in a neat row, some squat, some tall, one no larger than a thumb. Above them sat a rolled parchment. Hermione read aloud, "Danger lies before you, while safety lies behind. 2 of us will help you, whichever you would find. 1 among us 7 will let you move ahead. Another will transport the drinker back instead." She trailed off, eyes scanning the rest of the riddle. Harry glanced at the bottles. "This is Snape's, isn't it?" Hermione didn't answer right away. Her brow was furrowed, lips moving. She wasn't just reading, she was calculating. "It's logic," she murmured. "Not spells, not strength, just deduction." Ron would have hated this part, Harry thought. Hermione stepped forward, scanning each bottle carefully. "Okay, the 3rd is poison, the 5th too. This one lets you go back, which means this one." She pointed to the smallest bottle, clear as water. Harry stared at it. "That lets me go forward." "Yes," she said, "it's just enough for 1. Harry didn't speak for a moment. "I can go with you," Hermione said quickly. "We can both try." "No," Harry said gently. "You need to go back. Get help. Tell Dumbledore." Her mouth twisted. "You think he'll believe me?" "I think," Harry said, "you're the only person clever enough to convince him." Hermione looked down, then nodded. "Take the bottle. Go. I'll stay with Ron until I can get back." She stepped closer. For once, no lecture, no plan, just a friend trying to say something without words. "Be careful," she said. Harry uncorked the bottle. The liquid burned cold on his tongue. Then he stepped into the black flames and vanished. The room beyond the black fire was silent. Stone pillars reached up into shadows. In the centre stood a tall mirror, ornate, golden, familiar. The mirror of Arist. And in front of it stood Professor Quirrell. He wasn't trembling or stammering. He stood tall, still, hands clasped behind his back like a statue. The turban was gone. His scalp gleamed, pale and waxy in the low light. "Professor?" Harry said softly. Quirrell didn't turn around. "I wondered when you'd arrive." Harry stepped closer. He could see his reflection in the mirror now, himself pale and shaking. Behind him, Quirrell's face stared straight ahead. "You." Harry swallowed. "You were the one trying to steal the stone." "Very good," Quirrell said. "You've made it quite far for a child." Harry took another step. "You let the troll in. You tried to kill me during the match. I did what I was told." There was something unnatural about his voice now, flat, stripped of pretense. Harry narrowed his eyes. "He sent you." Quirrell finally turned. "How bright you've grown to be," he said. The voice that answered wasn't his. It came from behind him, from his skull. "Show him." Quirrell reached up with both hands. His fingers unwrapped the back of his head like a gift. Harry staggered backward. Where Quirrell's head should have ended, another face emerged. It was pale, stretched thin like parchment over bone, eyes red, slitted, a mouth that barely moved when it spoke. "Harry Potter," the face rasped. "We meet once again." Harry's breath caught. "Voldemort?" "Not quite," the voice whispered. A shadow, a whisper, but enough. Quirrell stepped toward him. "You've seen the stone in the mirror, haven't you?" Voldemort said. "Tell me how to get it." Harry didn't answer. Quirrell raised his wand. "Tell him!" Harry stood still, hands clenched. "You'll kill me either way." A pause. Then Voldemort's voice slithered again. "Perhaps. But I can also give you power, knowledge. I knew your parents, Harry. Your mother was clever, like your little friend. And your father, brave." Harry's hands shook. "You killed them." "It was necessary," Voldemort said. "They defied me, as you do now." Quirrell raised his hand. "Tell me how the mirror works." But the mirror was already changing. Harry blinked. In the reflection he saw himself, older maybe, smiling, holding a stone in his hand. He blinked again. His pocket felt heavier. He didn't move. "What do you see?" Voldemort hissed. Harry looked into that face, that terrible mask-like face, and lied. "I see myself shaking your hand, joining you." Quirrell froze. Voldemort was silent. Then, "Liar," Voldemort whispered. "Kill him." Quirrell lunged. Harry ducked. Their skin touched. Quirrell screamed. His hand blistered instantly, smoke rising where Harry had grabbed his wrist. He reeled back, eyes wild. What is this?" "Get the stone, you fool," Voldemort snarled. Quirrell obeyed. Harry fought back with everything he had. They grappled, Quirrell stronger, faster, but every time they touched, he screamed, his skin burning, unraveling. Harry pressed both palms against his face. Quirrell shrieked, his body convulsed. Then, darkness. He woke in the hospital wing, white sheets, clean light, the scent of herbs. Dumbledore sat by his bed. "Hello, Harry?" Harry blinked. His throat was dry. "Hermione? Ron? Safe. And the stone is destroyed," Dumbledore said. "You kept it from him." Harry looked down. His hands were bandaged. "Quirrell? Gone. And Voldemort?" Dumbledore's face was grave. "Escaped. For now." Harry closed his eyes. "I couldn't stop him." Dumbledore shook his head. "You stopped him from returning. You saved the stone and your friends." There was a long pause. "Why did he burn when I touched him?" Harry asked. Dumbledore smiled faintly. "Your mother left you something he cannot understand. A kind of magic he's never had and never will. That's why he couldn't bear your touch." Harry stared at his hands. Dumbledore stood. "Rest, Harry. The end of the year awaits." And with a sweep of his robes, the headmaster left. The great hall had never looked more dazzling. Its ceiling glittered with soft starlight. The house banners fluttered in a summer breeze that couldn't possibly reach indoors, and the long tables were piled high with golden plates, treacle tart, roast chicken, and a dozen kinds of pudding. Harry walked in to applause he didn't understand. Dumbledore stood at the staff table, arms outstretched like a conductor calling for calm. His blue robe shimmered in the candlelight. Another year passed. Another feast to enjoy, but before we eat, some last-minute points to award, Dumbledore said. The hall hushed. To Miss Hermione Granger, for the use of logic and steady nerves in the face of danger. 50 points. Gasps. Cheers from Gryffindor. Hermione looked stunned. Then she smiled, a real wide smile like a sunrise. To Mr. Ronald Weasley, Dumbledore continued, for the best played game of wizard's chess Hogwarts has seen in many years. 50 points. The table erupted. Even Fred and George whooped like he'd scored a winning goal. Ron, still a bit pale and stiff from recovery, managed a grin. Did he say best game? Harry laughed. That's what it sounded like. Dumbledore raised a hand. To Harry Potter. For courage beyond measure, and a refusal to let darkness overcome the love within. 60 points. The Gryffindor table went wild. But Dumbledore wasn't finished. And finally to Mr. Neville Longbottom, he said, his voice warm and ringing, for standing up to his friends and proving that true courage is not always loud. 10 points. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then the score banners shifted. Slytherin's green faded. Gryffindor's red and gold unfurled from the ceiling. They had won the House Cup. Neville's eyes were wide as saucers. Hermione hugged him. Ron thumped him on the back. Harry just smiled, not because of points or cups or banners, because he'd seen something in Neville no one else had seen before. The Hogwarts Express puffed smoke into the bright June sky. Harry leaned against the window, his trunk packed, Hedwig asleep in her cage beside him. Hermione sat across from him, legs curled up, reading again. Ron lay stretched out on the seat, chocolate frog wrapper stuck to his shirt. We're not really going back, are we? Ron muttered. Back to normal. Hermione didn't look up. I doubt any of this was normal. Harry chuckled. I think I've forgotten what normal even looks like. The countryside rushed past. Green hills, quiet farms, the world before magic. Harry pressed his forehead to the glass. He didn't want to go back to Privet Drive, to cupboard doors and silent meals. But he knew something now, something Voldemort didn't, something the Dursleys never would. He wasn't alone. Hermione looked up from her book. You all right? Harry nodded. Just thinking. About what? He smiled faintly. About how much can change from just sitting with someone on a train. Hermione blushed, just a little, and looked out the window. Ron sat up. Well, next year, remind me to find a much less dangerous seat.